All right, so if you're on your journey learning to code, I want you to stop scrolling for a second and just give me a few minutes to talk about something that no one in the industry really talks about. And that's why a lot of beginners quit on their path of learning to code, whether they're looking to become a software engineer, a web developer, or whatever they want to do in the industry. And this is coming from someone that doesn't actually work in the industry, but I've been fortunate enough to learn to code along the way. I have a few projects that are out on the internet from a freelance perspective. So this is someone that isn't obligated to learn the code. It's genuinely a passion of mine. And I don't know if I'll ever really work in the industry because I don't know if that's something that I desire to do at this point. I'm pretty comfortable at the work that I do right now. However, I do want to have that option and I genuinely enjoy learning the code. So if you're on your journey to learning the code, give me a few minutes and let's kind of talk through why some beginners learn to quit, some of the mistakes that I made, and just some advice for you so that you don't make the same mistakes that I made along the way. So the first thing that I would suggest to you is to manage your expectations. So if you're on social media using that as a supplemental way to learn the code, whether it be through YouTube, Twitter, Udemy, or any other platforms, you may come across tutorials or videos that say, hey, learn the code in a weekend, learn JavaScript in 30 days, learn Python in a weekend. And yes, you can learn the basics of those programming languages in that time frame. However, it's not very practical to say that you're going to master those languages within that time frame. It takes more time and practice, consistency, and hours put into it in order to actually learn. So if you get through a tutorial and you find yourself not grasping all of the concepts that you learned from that tutorial that you watched in the weekend, don't panic. That's okay. That's totally understandable and that's totally relatable. And it's something that all of us go through that we just may not expose it and admit it. So, what I would suggest to do is to really manage those expectations and don't set a time frame on yourself on when or how quickly you need to learn the code. Everyone learns differently, and depending upon what you are already doing and your learning capabilities, it may take you 3 months where it may take someone else 1 month. And that's okay because as long as you're getting the end result and you are making progress every day, eventually things are going to click and those basics are going to become secondhand nature to you, and the things that are a little more intermediate are going to become secondhand nature to you, and the things that are more difficult or senior related, you're going to learn how to solve those issues and how to use Google, Stack Overflow, Chat GPT, whatever resource you have to kind of help bridge the gap from a learning perspective. So the first thing I would suggest is to manage those expectations and stop putting so much pressure on yourself to learn based on what someone else is saying that you should be able to do. The next thing I would suggest for you is to make sure that you have a plan. A lot of times you may open up a tutorial and you may just say, hey, I'm just getting ready to learn the code. And that's a good way to kind of get started and to kind of get some experience with it. But if you're genuinely serious about it, you kind of want to understand what branch or what do you want to do with the coding that you're learning and then zero in on learning that. Starting with the basics, starting with adding on to those basics, and then really building something that's a little more meaningful. So for me, the very first true project that I built was with Java, and it was for a class that I took at, I think it was Colorado State was the name of the college that I attended, right, to learn the code. And it was a banking application. I turned it in for a final project. It was very, very simple. All it had was it will prompt the user to enter their name. Once their name is entered, they would enter their initial deposit, and it would say, welcome, the user's name, thank you for depositing the amount. And what it was teaching me was how to incorporate strings and numbers and data into the project. And then from there, the user could select one to either add a deposit or two to make a withdrawal. And then based on that, it will provide a message back to the user saying, hey, thank you so much for choosing us today. Thank you for your withdrawal of X amount of dollars. Your current balance is this, or thank you for your deposit of X amount of dollars. The current balance is this. And then from there, after the class was over, I added on to the complexity of it where we would add a savings account, we added a loan capability, and we also added the ability for users to have multiple accounts. And this was something that became a full blown out project. Not saying that a financial institution would ever want to use it, but it had a lot of complexity behind it, all because it was something that I started small with and I continued to build upon it as I got more comfortable and was able to utilize the skills that I was learning from a CRUD perspective and then adding on additional features and capabilities within that. The last thing I would suggest to you is that you're probably learning the wrong way. Most of us start out by using some form of course or tutorial that we may find on YouTube, Udemy, or wherever you like to watch your coding content. Those are great, but when you click on a title that says learn Python in a weekend or learn React in 30 days, yes, you can learn those frameworks or those languages somewhat to an extent within that time frame. However, don't expect to be a senior level developer by the time you finish those tutorials. That's not what they're designed to do. They're really designed to be an introduction so that you can get started and you could build upon the skills that you're learning within those tutorials so that you could build something a little more practical and meaningful that you can test out in the real world with friends and family and get feedback. So for me, one of the things that I built early on, just like everybody else, was a simple to-do app. Starting out with, hey, you can create a to-do, you can edit that to-do, and you can delete that to-do. And I deployed it on the web, and I asked my son and my family and those that, hey, just test it out. Let me know what you think of it. Give me some feedback. And yes, it was a simple project. They gave me a lot of positive feedback. Ironically, no one found anything wrong with it because I guess they just wanted me to feel good. But the point I'm trying to make to you is that what I found was that watching the tutorial wasn't the way that genuinely I would learn. I really had to get my hands in code, make some mistakes, forget some bugs, log errors to the console, Google what those errors meant, and then really use that to kind of say, okay, now I understand this concept. Okay, now I understand why this went wrong. And then as I got more experience and more comfortable with that, that is what really kind of propelled me to really kind of understand how I learn so that I could take the advantage of my learning skills and make the most use of my time. So if I had to summarize the keys or the things that you kind of want to zero in on your journey to learn the code is to make sure that you're not giving yourself unrealistic expectations. Have some form of plan or system. Even if you aren't in a position where you can attend a university, go to one of the university's curriculum and look at their agenda or curriculum for a student that's becoming a computer science learner and just follow that curriculum. As it says, introduction to arrays and strings. Go out and learn about arrays and strings so that you'll have an understanding of it. As it introduces more advanced concepts like algorithms, go out and learn about algorithms so that you can understand it and you have some form of structure or some form of plan. And then the last suggestion I have for you is to make sure that you're learning the right way. Don't just follow a tutorial. Make sure that you're getting your hands dirty, but more importantly, make sure that it is something that you're comfortable with and that you can actually get your arms wrapped around and learn. So I hope you enjoyed this quick conversation, motivation, or tips on how you can become a developer and not give up on your journey along the way. I'm getting ready to head into work. I hope you enjoy your day. Stay blessed, and I'll see you in the next video.